Rabbit, how much do you know about
Know on what?
Battletech? Yeah, what do you know? Do you know what
About
Battletech
Battletech?
is? Yeah.
I know about Battletech. I
Okay.
know that there's a Star League.
Uh-huh.
There have been four succession wars. Lau got invited to a wedding and found out that the wedding was a big elaborate plot to fuck with him and also to invade his territory.
Mm-hmm.
Long live the Capellan. Koreans are at fucking assholes. Everyone's assholes. The clans are assholes. And the Ghost Bears, they like football.
Yep. Yep. These are all fair statements. These are all very fair statements. All right. Well, today we're gonna do the semi-mandatory BattleTech 101. We're gonna run through, hit the major points, and then we will actually get into uh, the stuff that people are actually going to want to tune in for the actual big stompy robots, their weapons, all that kind of. So start off with some of the major historical stuff. Uh, so we do have to kind of discuss the jump system. Um, Rabbit, are you aware that in 2018 the faster than light jump drive was first theorized?
Honestly, it would make things a lot more. It would make things very interesting.
Yeah. Let's see. In
But
2020, uh,
we don't live in the base timeline. We live in the crappy AI driven timeline.
yep. Let's see. In 2021, oh, not General Electric, General Motors, uh, built the first successful fusion engine for the Western Alliance. They've clearly not released it as we don't have fusion tech yet. Let's see. 3 years ago, as of this episode in
Ow.
2022, bless you.
Thank you.
The hyperpulse generator system was theorized. Wasn't until 2107 that we built the first jump ship and visited Tau Ceti. 2116, first colonization of extraterrestrial planets begins. After that, that's when we really start to get into the issues that permeate all of BattleTech. So to borrow from a different universe for a brief moment, um, do you know the lore in Halo behind why the UNSC actually funded the Spartan program?
Yes,
Okay,
it's to deal with insurrectionists
yeah. Well, that
quietly and
is
violently.
yeah, that is basically the exact same thing that happens in BattleTech. Just no no badass super soldiers. Unfortunately, we don't get Master Chief.
Master Chief.
Yep. Instead, after colonization of extraterrestrial planets begins in 2116, you do slowly get the uh, the rollout of, oh well, why are we being taxed by a planet that takes years for any kind of communication to get to? Because you literally, if you wanted to deliver a letter, you had to get aboard a jump ship, jump out of system, land in. Um, oh, thank you, Riza. In order to deliver a message, there was no faster than light communication, only faster than light travel. So just like every other, just like the American Revolution, why are we being taxed when the government is like 6 to 8 months away?
Yeah.
Let's see. Around 2235, which is the map I have on the screen. This is about the the limit of human civilization, and everything was under the Terran Alliance.
Hmm.
So this little dot here, that is it. That is all of human inhabited space, with this further one being the ultimate outreach of the inner sphere. Um, there was about 628 colonies that humanity had. That was everybody.
Everyone.
2236. We have the Outreaches Rebellion on the hilariously named planet Freedom.
Freedom ain't free, bitch.
Took
Pretty much
about
in the whole
yeah,
situation.
yep. That war, that rebellion lasted about 2 years before everything kind of just bogged down into a stalemate, and the Terran Alliance realized they couldn't really do anything, and so if the Terran Alliance government couldn't actually control, like if they couldn't reasonably control the planet, they ultimately made the decision to just leave it be. So they passed the Demarcation Declaration in 2242, and this is what really kicks off a lot of the. This is like the thing that starts what ultimately becomes BattleTech, because anything beyond 30 light years was declared to be a completely independent system. The Terran Alliance would have as little to do with that system as possible in terms of governance, regardless of whether the planet wanted to or not. So at that point, all these planets more than 30 light years away now have to govern themselves, which means that they now have to go to war with each other for resources and territory. There's nobody to uh, tell them what is legal, what is illegal, nothing like that. Let's see here. The next thing we have is 2nd June 2315. We have James McKenna. Um, you'll hear his name pop up as we kind of go through certain stuff, because James McKenna is very important, specifically to the Terran hegemony, not the alliance, but the Terran hegemony, because James McKenna was a military commander. He conducted a coup on the Terran Alliance government. And then after his death, the Cameron family ends up restabilizing the hegemony government and becomes the de facto hegemony government, instituting the now infamous neo feudalism of the Battletech universe. A little bit prior to that, so there were a bunch of different wars and everything that were going on, but couple important things are in January of 2253, um, Samantha Calderon uh, fled the Terran Alliance and all of the wars that happened, um,
Mm-hmm.
and lands on the planet of Taurus. She then ends up founding the Taurian Concordat. There is a squadron that winds up founding the Rimworld's Republic on 8 September 2250. And if you want more info on these events, I there's a bunch of different folks on YouTube. Text of the Black Pants Legion, Sven Vanderplank, Sven Vanderplank. That's his name. Sorry, I'm terrible at remembering people's names.
About to say, those names sound like it'd be a struggle to try and name there.
Yeah. And also Big Red 40 Tech. These guys go much more in depth into the history. This is mostly just to get all of the ducks in a row so that we're not flying into this completely blind as we kind of go through stuff and we talk about, oh, well, this group made this piece of equipment and that group developed this piece of equipment. So by the time the Terran hegemony actually fully has fully developed and has claimed territory, by this point you actually have um, several of the what would become the major factions also beginning to form. So around the time we hit 2557, this is what the galaxy, or sorry, 2570. This is what the galaxy looks like. Now, by the time we get to this point, we've had a couple major things take place. So, like we already touched on, House Cameron is formed. House Cameron becomes the de facto Terran hegemony government. You have the Lyran Commonwealth and House Steiner, the Draconis Combine, and House Kurita, the Federated Sons, and House Davian, the Capellan Confederation, and House Liao, and the Free Worlds League, and House Merrick. These are the six major players throughout the coming years. Um, in 2412, the Ares Conventions are introduced by the Terran hegemony and are ratified by most of the major and minor powers. Um, this map will give you a better idea. The only organization on this map in particular that does not sign the Ares Conventions is the Taurian Concordat down here in the southeast. This ultimately will come back to kind of bite them in the ass because the Capellans decide that, well, since the Ares Conventions didn't bother to sign the Ares Conventions, or sorry, that since the Capellans decide that because the Taurians didn't bother to sign the Ares Conventions, therefore the Ares Conventions don't apply to them, and they begin nuking Taurian worlds in order to try and claim Taurian Concordat territory.
As one do when they war crime people.
Yep. War crimes, baby. Never.
Yeah, crying like a war crime.
Yep. They will never not happen. Unfortunately. Okay. So the in 2439, before this map actually becomes the map, so we're still technically working with this map, but more of this territory is filled in. 2439, the very first battle mech is introduced. So every war prior to this has been fought with advanced versions of modern day technology. You've got fusion engine powered tanks, you've got internal combustion powered tanks, you have fighter jets, you have aerospace fighters, you have spaceborne battleships, you have hovercraft, you have blue water navies, brown water navies, infantry, all that kind of stuff. 2439 is when everything changes. And it starts. Well, no, we'll save him. We'll save him until we actually get to this. But the Mackie gets introduced, and during the trials for the Mackie single handedly takes out what was a significant force of tanks that the Terran hegemony had access to. This one singular piece of technology shifts the entire battlefield, and that's what everybody's here for. They want to hear about the Mackie and how it stomped a bunch of tanks, and then everybody tried to steal the Mackie blueprints and start building their own. Now, the Mackie obviously shifts the battlefield and how powerful you can be, but that then leads to people wanting to abandon what is considered to be known space, which it leads to the founding of the Taurian Concordat, the Rimworld's Republic, meaning that this map at the end of 2570 is the known universe, and there's a bunch of people that decide to flee to get away from these 6 assholes just constantly trying to kill each other over, I want that planet. Well, you can't have that planet. It's mine. Okay?
I want the planet still. No, you cannot have it. Oh, you took the planet. Fuck, we gotta get the planet back.
Yes. Now, next
Whoa,
mate.
nuke upon B, basically, after that.
Yep. Well, no, nukes were banned. You're not allowed to just nuke a planet.
Mm?
You have to drop your stolen Mackie down onto the planet and take it the good old fashioned way. Because the Ares conventions, you're not allowed to just rock up to a planet, nuke it, and then go, "This is mine now." So in 2629, right? So like, stop and think about this. We've got all of this space. It's not until 2629, and specifically January 1st, 2630, that the actual first hyperpulse generator transmission is sent from the Terran hegemony. So all of this space has been colonized, and it's not until several decades later that anybody is actually able to talk to each other in real time. If you wanted to shitpost, you had to record your shitpost on a USB stick, pay to have it loaded up onto a jump ship and delivered from whatever planet you were on to the next planet over. Otherwise, you were going to be waiting years for the reply shitpost or the crash outs.
Send a meme to a friend, wait 2 to 3 years, get a reply back, you're gay as fuck.
Yes. There are several books that, if you go to sarna.net, they actually do break all of these things down, and they actually have any relevant fiction. All of this stuff. All right. But this is the state of the galaxy at the time. Or, well, the galaxy. Battletech isn't that big. Battletech tries to be somewhat realistic. But in 2571, the following year, that is when House Cameron actually comes to the other 5 noble houses and says, "Hey, you guys want to make a club?" And thus is born the Star League.
Dun, 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 dun.
The giant asshole confederacy. Almost immediately, the Star League starts spreading propaganda about the periphery states. Going back to this map, so you have the hegemony, the Commonwealth, the Combine, the Federated Suns, the Confederation, and the League. Down here you have the Taurian Concordat. Down all the way down here you have the Magistracy of Canopus, and up here, I forget exactly who this is, but the Outworlds Alliance, and then this is the Rimworlds Republic. But these four periphery states almost immediately have propaganda being uh, put out about or against them. In the case of Canopus, Canopus is the one that has the most propaganda put out about it, basically declaring it to be this degenerate state, um, because the Canopian legal system basically amounts to: Are you a consenting adult? Yes. All right. Did you consent to this particular event that happened? Yes. All right. Then sucks to be you. You agreed to be. You agreed to whatever. Therefore, you agreed to it. It's your own fault for not reading the contract properly. If you're not an adult, then you can't consent to things, period. And if you didn't consent, you were bludgeoned over the head and now you're stuck aboard a ship. Well, all right, the Canopian government will step in and be like, hey, consent first, then Shanghai. The Outworlds Alliance, the Rimworld Republic were treated more as just, oh, well, you see, the poor simpletons just don't know. They don't understand Starleague, you know? Humanity. Big family, right? The following year in 2572, you then get into one of the major events in the Star League era. So the Star League sends troops into the Outworlds Alliance,
Mm-hmm.
garrisoning a portion of the territory. This directly results in a Draconis Combine mech warrior getting harassed and having stuff thrown at him. In response, he does the brilliant, brilliant maneuver of assaulting some civilians in his mech, which leads to a bunch of civilians dying in what's later called the Santiago Massacre. This this kicks off basically an open revolt against the inner sphere from the periphery states, and about 5 years later, the reunification wars begin. Now, by this point, most of the mechs that people kind of recognize from the Star League era have been developed, because almost as soon as the Mackie was introduced, the other five houses immediately began trying to get spies in there to steal the plans or steal the actual mech so that they could bring it back and start trying to replicate it. There's a whole mess load of stuff that goes on in the reunification wars, but touch on it as briefly as possible. The Taurian Concordat is the first periphery state to be invaded in 2577. 2 years prior to this, up here in the Rimworld's Republic, there is actually a rebellion that happens, and that takes the Star League by surprise, because the Rimworld's Republic has usually been on good terms with the Inner Sphere. They haven't really gone out of their way to be standoffish or dickheads to the Inner Sphere. Star League isn't expecting it, but that helps. That and the Santiago Massacre help kick off the invasion of the Taurian Concordat, who the Inner Sphere deems to be the single biggest threat. The Star League decides that the Taurians are the periphery state that needs to be hit first and hardest, because it's the Taurians. The Taurians do not play around. About 2581, after the SLDF and the Draconis Combine military have actually made good headway into the Taurian Concordat, They actually they leave the troops there, but they then open another front into the Outworlds Alliance. That invasion um, concludes in 2585 when they reach the planet Cerberus. This planet right here, that's what ultimately ends the invasion of the Outworlds Alliance. The At roughly the same time, the SLDF does invade the Magistracy of Canopus with assistance from the Free Worlds League. The Merrick forces actually do take Canopus, which is the big reason why the Magistracy surrenders. However, the catch with this is that several of the planets within the Magistracy territory continue to fight against Merrick forces. And with the Outworlds Alliance, the Taurian Concordat, the Magistracy, and the Rim Worlds having surrendered, that's basically the end of the reunification wars, and we enter into the golden age of the Star League. The golden age, you see a lot of stuff. There is just some absolute wild mechs that get produced, including one of my favorites. You actually end up seeing the original Charger, the CRG-1A1, which I don't care what anybody says, that thing is absolutely hilarious. You just have to know how to use it properly. You feel me?
Oh yeah, I feel you. So does the dog.
Yeah. Now, the golden age of the Star League lasts for roughly 200 years, but there's a problem. Problem is that you have to understand that the Star League Defense Forces were supposed to be the be all end all of the military, but in order to get the the noble houses to actually sign on to the Star League, and the Ares conventions were different, but in order to get them to sign on to the Star League charter, the other five houses had to be allowed to maintain some level of military, because otherwise they are completely dependent on the Star League Defense Forces for their own safety, which basically meant that the Terran hegemony had de facto military control of everybody. It's obviously not going to fly, especially with someplace like the Draconis Combine or the Capellan Confederation. They are not going to stand by and just be like, oh, yeah, sure, we'll just hand over all of our guns. So, for about 200 ish years, you actually have several hidden wars. They're not official wars, and the Terran hegemony does not want this information to go public because it makes them look bad and stupid. But you'll notice on this map, there's this little bit of red here from the Draconis Combine in Terran hegemony space. I wonder how that got there. So there's a couple significant things to bring up here. There's an unofficial conflict between the Star League and the Draconis Combine that lasts for about 50 years, from 2681 to 2731. Uh, round the same time that is starting to wind down, you also have the War of Davian Succession. Don't worry about it; it's not important. Davians suck. Then you also have the Pirate War. It's also called the Phony War. Right up until 2752. At the exact same time, in 2765, the Periphery Revolts break out. The Periphery Revolts. So the map has turned into this as of 2750. And 15 years after that, in 2765, the Periphery Revolts break out. And the map.
Oh boy.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much the same thing. There wasn't a lot that But the important thing is in 2765, the periphery revolts break out, and that starts down here in the Taurian Concordat. Because the Taurians are very much space Texas. Now, what nobody realizes at the time is that when the Taurian Concordat starts revolting, the Magistracy of Canopus starts revolting, the Outworlds Alliance starts revolting, and the Rimworlds Republic is mostly stable. At this point in time, there's a whole thing going on with General Alexander Kerensky running around the periphery with the SLDF putting out fires. He has pissed off the current First Lord of the Star League, and Stefan Amaris, the de facto dictator of the Rimworld's Republic, has been getting very chummy with the First Lord for several years, and so in December 2766, Stefan Amaris walks into the throne room on Terra and kills the First Lord and declares himself to be Emperor of the known universe.
Here we go. The fun part.
Yep. Tex has a much better video going into all of the nitty gritty details of it. Go watch his videos. Um, that's part of what got me into BattleTech. But from 2766 to 2779, the Ameris Empire is in place, and his coup is almost constantly under threat by Alexander Kerensky. But in 2779, it comes to an end with the death of Stefan Amaris, the retaking of Terra um, by Alexander Kerensky and the SLDF. And almost immediately, we start getting the Terran hegemony being chewed up, and the first succession war begins begins to appear on the horizon. So, this is ultimately what the map ends up looking like. The Rimworld's Republic is almost completely gone. The Terran hegemony has been eaten up by all of the surrounding successor states. Alexander Kerensky does try to keep the peace, keep everybody on the same side of this, but ultimately is gone. There is no saving it from itself. So in 2784, the Star League's not officially dissolved, but Alexander Kerensky, as one of the last uh, representatives of the Star League, leaves. Uh, Jerome Blake is left in charge of SL Comnet, and he begins his process of slowly creating Comstar, um, and that's it. That's the only remnants of the Star League really left. The successor states go at each other's, or get ready to go at each other's throats. Uh, and in 2786, the first succession war officially begins.
Light up the firecrackers, boys. Shit's about to get very spicy.
Yes. One of the very first things that happens is the complete abandonment of the Ares conventions. So now, nukes are back on the menu, boys. Immediately, the successor states begin performing raids, and instead of just going in, taking equipment, taking personnel, taking resources, instead they go in. Hey, that's a real nice factory you got there, Fed Sons. Be a shame if we, nuked it. Lamau, praise the dragon, dab on the haters. It's about how it goes. About 2 years later, in 2788, Comstar is officially founded, and they actually perform a controlled blackout as they use military force to take over all of Terra, and then lay down an ultimatum of Earth is off limits, and if you don't like it, we will simply break all of your HPG equipment, and you will not be able to talk to anybody ever again. Deal?
Basically, no more phone calls for you.
Yep.
Pay your fucking bills.
Pay your phone bill, fucko. That goes on for a while until eventually this becomes the map in 28-21 when the first succession war ends. We get a nice little 9-year long reprieve, and then the second succession war starts. The second succession war goes until about 2864. And by this point, most human technology is gone. So the map shifts around a little bit, and this is where we're sitting at the end of 2864. A lot of technology is lost. A lot of very, very fancy, very nice mechs are very much diminished. If the mech is still able to be produced, fantastic, but it probably cannot be produced in the same quality that it was before. The really famous example is the original King Crab, the KGC 000, was a much better mech than its post Succession War replacement, the KGC. No, I think I have that backwards. I think originally was the KGC 0000 was the original, and the 000 is the replacement. Doesn't matter. We'll get to the King Crab when we get to it, and you will see the great travesty that was the pre-Succession War King Crab and its reduction into the post-Succession War Crab. But yeah, the Succession Wars were an absolute travesty. Entire worlds made uninhabitable. Some of the best weapons technology that humanity ever had was completely lost within the inner sphere. By this point, the clans are actually doing fairly well for themselves and have actually come up with the elemental, both the actual soldier and the power armor suit, as well as Omnimech technology. 2886, the third Succession War starts, and this is officially the Lost Tech era. Um, Everything is so gone that they're just people tell whispers about, oh yeah, my great 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 grandpa used to drive a King Crab with Gauss cannons in the pinchers. Oh yeah, well my great 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 grandpa was there on Terra fighting Amaris with Alexander Kerensky and his Orion. Pfft, the Orion's a myth. It never existed. Conversations like that are common. 3025, third succession war ends. 3028. Everybody's favorite mercenary outfit, the Grey Death Legion, finds the Helm Memory Core in Merrick space and immediately begins disseminating the Helm Memory Core because they got accused of war crimes they didn't do, and that was the only way to get everybody to not try to murder them. And there you have it. Everybody just kind of goes, "Oh yeah, you're fine, kid. Thanks for the renaissance that we're all going through now."
Everything's so nice and happy.
Yeah, we're gonna just completely ignore the fact that all of the stuff and the things and the blah blah. Now this is where we get into the story that you brought up, because after the Helm Memory Core is found and disseminated on 20 August 3028, there is a wedding between a Steiner and a Davian.
It won't go wrong in the far future.
Yeah, as a direct result of the wedding and the expert trolling by, I think it was Prince Davian, the leading member of House Liao absolutely loses his mind grabbing random plates on this massive dining table trying to formulate what is the plan for invasion of the Capellan Confederation. There was no plan. It was all just a big troll. But the marriage does, as a direct result, cause the Fourth Succession War to kick off all the way up until 3030. At which point, this becomes our map. And the Capellans have been chewed up bad as a direct result of the Fourth Succession. After the Fourth Succession War ends, we do get in 3034 the Free Rosselhog Republic is founded. Ghost Base Scandinavia. There's a few other things. This map here does not fully show the proper merger between the Federated Commonwealth and, or sorry, yeah, it doesn't show the full merger of the Federated Commonwealth yet. But you do have Rosselhog right here, or Rosselhog has no idea what's coming.
They didn't, and they won't until it's too late.
Yeah. We then get this map. This is important because this is a map of the inner sphere in 3049. This is 3052. So, as most people will be aware, if they're fans of BattleTech, if you're new, in 3050, we get the clan invasion. So the clans, I briefly mentioned them before. Alexander Kerensky and his SLDF people left the Inner Sphere. They landed on some habitable worlds, colonized them, had another miniature civil war, which then caused a second trip away from those planets to other habitable planets, even further out, under the direction of Alexander's son, Nicholas, who is an absolute sociopath. And he formed the clans. The clans spent several centuries being a caste-based military society. With the exception of Clan Ghost Bear, there are no families in the clans. You don't have a last name, you just have a first name. They implemented a eugenics program, gene editing, but they do have some of the best mechs and best equipment that anybody in the Inner Sphere has ever seen. I will freely admit, as a unapologetic clan basher, the clans do have better tech. They had several hundred years of near constant competition, while also not actually engaging in full scale war over that technology, which let them miniaturize and improve quite a bit of their own technology to the point where it is superior. Prior to 3050, there was a scout ship from Comstar that was sent out to try to find any remnant of Alexander Kerensky's Exodus fleet. Well, they found him, immediately got captured, immediately got tortured, had the torture videos edited because Clan Smoke Jaguar were also rabid sociopaths, where Nicholas Kerensky is debatably a sociopath. Smoke Jaguar, as its culture dictated, were rabid sociopaths. So they saw literally no problem in editing footage and using torture to coerce fake confessions out of the exploratory fleet from Comstar, which was mostly scientists. Mostly scientists and historians. No real warriors. There were no soldiers. There were no fighters aboard this ship, tortured them, presented the evidence to the rest of the clans, and then proceeded to use that as an excuse to initiate the clan invasion in 3050. It wasn't until look, so you can see up here, you have Clan Ghost Bear, Clan Wolf, Clan Jade Falcon, and this is it. They've just barely hit the inner sphere. And in 2 years, they've gone this far. Rosselhog is almost completely gone. Clan Jade Falcon has pushed far into Lyran Commonwealth territory. Clan Smoke Jaguar and Clan Nova Cat have taken about a third of Draconis Combine territory.
And are inching closer to the home world, or the capital world of Draconis.
Yes. Yeah. They are literally, depending on exactly which, if it's Clan Smoke Jaguar is about 2 jumps, and Clan Nova Cat is about 2 jumps from being able to take the Draconis Combine homeworld of Luthien in 2 years. Now, they're very distant jump from actually being able to take Terra itself, which is their ultimate goal. But May 2052, the day we will never let the clanners forget. Right here, Clan Wolf's next hit, the next planet that they're going to need to hit as they continue driving towards Terra, is a little farm planet called Tukiet. Now, Comstar has finally realized that the clans are not going to play nice. The clans are coming to take Terra and conquer the Inner Sphere. There will be no Comstar anymore because the clans are the successors of the Star League. This does not sit well with Comstar because Comstar has, at this point, morphed from simply a technologically dependent business organization into a full-on religion, which there's debate over whether or not this was Jerome Blake's goal from the beginning, or if this was the guy who he declared to be his successor. You'll have to forgive me. I don't remember his name. It's something like Takayama Hashida. Something like that. Forgive me, class. But there's a debate over, was it Jerome Blake that did it, or was it his successor that did it and turned Comstar into this pseudo-religious organization? Well, this will come back up later because there is a subset within Comstar who are members of an organization called the Word of Blake. Deal with them later. Worries. But Comstar being the successors of the Star League and the clans being the successors of the Star League and having 2 completely different views of what that means cannot coexist. The clans are absolutely stomping the Inner Sphere because the clans have faster mechs with better armor, with longer range guns that hit harder. And most importantly, all of this at a fraction of the weight. Comstar issues a challenge. Come to the planet Tukiad. We will sit and duke this out like men. If you can take and hold these cities, then we will actively participate in you taking Terra. If you lose, you have to sit on your hands for 15 years doing nothing. Clans agreed. Dropped onto the planet. Again, Tex has a much better video about this. It is hilarious. He puts the clanners in their place. And on 20 May 3052, the clans are defeated at Tukiyid. For the next 15 years, the clans cannot move further south on the star map. This would be highly dishonorable and it would be a great embarrassment to them. Let's see here. Now, after the clan's defeat, in 3055, we actually get the formal formation of the Federated Commonwealth, which on some maps will actually, show it to you. But here you go. Not all maps do that. So, here it is. FedCom. What's left of the Free Rosselhog Republic, the St. Ives Compact. St. Ives Compact is just a breakaway. They didn't like what was happening with the Capellan Confederation and getting punched in the face one too many times, so they broke off. Let's see here. 3057. The clans have their refusal war. This is basically just some of the clans wanted to, they had finally learned how to take these backsies and wanted to continue pushing south. Some of the other clans, notably Clan Wolf, said no, this is great dishonor. And it didn't really, Clan Wolf did put those guys back in their place, and so everything eventually worked out and the peace was maintained. But this is where things kind of start going screwy all over again because the Lyran half of the FedCom secedes from the Commonwealth. So the Lyran Commonwealth succeeds from the Federated Commonwealth in 3057. This is not good. In 3058, the Battle of Coventry takes place. The all five of the successor states actually have to create a second Star League, and then in 3060, they actually go all the way to the Clan homeworld, obliterate Clan Smoke Jaguar, who totally deserved it, in the Great Refusal, and stops the clan invasion permanently. So at this point, here's where we're looking. Several of the clans, Smoke Jaguar has dipped out. Clan Novacat has started to integrate with the Draconis Combine. You could see a lot of the periphery states have continued to grow, especially down here on the south, since they don't have to deal with the clanners. In 3062, Catherine Steiner Davian manages to secure the Davian half of her throne, but she is such a colossal douche that she goes full dictator and actually ends up breaking the Federated Commonwealth, both figuratively and literally.
It is be broken. That Great Wall of China.
Yes. So in 3062, the FedCom Civil War actually takes off, and the Federated Commonwealth, the Lyran Commonwealth and the Federated Sons begin actively fighting each other over who is supposed to be in charge, hence why it's called the FedCom Civil War. When we get back to this, you will actually get to see some very interesting mech designs come up. By 3066, the Word of Blake has actually started to take some worlds around Terra, resulting in them actually being able to form the Word of Blake Protectorate, but nobody really pays attention and nobody does anything about it because everybody's a little preoccupied with the FedCom Civil War, which ultimately comes to an end in April 3067 with the complete dissolution of the Federated Commonwealth and the return of the Lyran Commonwealth and the Federated Suns as two separate entities. Since it's no longer a thing to fight over, the Civil War is done and dusted. Unfortunately, in the following year, 3068, with the FedCom Civil War over, but the Federated Suns, or but the Federated Commonwealth being dissolved back into its constituent states, the Second Star League also dissolves. Also, partly because hey, the clans have been dealt with. We don't have to worry about that anymore. Let's go back to killing each other. And so you wind up with how do I? You know what? I'm gonna borrow the term from several other much much better BattleTech historians. We're just gonna call this the Blakist era.
Mm.
Um, because
I
with
mean, they're
the
not wrong.
yeah
Because what's about to happen is about to be like a repeat of the first succession war.
yeah. So in the in official lore, it has a different name that has a specific real world connotation that the YouTube overlords do not like us saying. So we're gonna call it the Blakist era. You'll understand here in a second. So the word of Blake being a hyper religious order and seeing the collapse of the Second Star League, which they were supposed to one facilitate and two take over, causes all of their prophecies to basically collapse in on themselves. And being the fundamentalist zealots that they are, um, this causes them to what's the clinical term? Rabbit, help me out here.
Uh, uh,
Lose their shit. That's what it
yeah,
is.
they're about to go. They're about to act like a redditor when they're told with the facts, and they're going to have a pretty big meltdown over it and make it everyone's fucking problem.
Yep. Oh, and they do. Um, so if you look up on like Sarna.net or Master Unit List, you will notice that there is a specific era that just has a mushroom cloud. They did that on purpose. With the collapse of the Second Star League and all of the Word of Blake's prophecies having collapsed in on themselves, they proceed to have an absolute religious meltdown. Now, the thing to remember is that the Word of Blake is Comstar, but Comstar is not the Word of Blake. The Word of Blake has integrated its way into every aspect of Comstar, and Comstar has religious tones to it, but it's almost like it's a difference between going back in time and meeting the Crusaders and LARPing as a Crusader. So the word of Blake is everywhere. They are involved in they're involved in every aspect of whatever Comstar is involved in, and Comstar is involved in literally everybody's business. Um, there's a specific battle armor that we'll cover in the future that was being actively sabotaged by the work by Comstar because Comstar was not part of the development team. And as soon as Comstar was brought in, suddenly everything was perfectly functional, right?
Mm.
So, um, Comstar get or sorry, not Comstar. The Word of Blake get their hands on some nukes and proceed to conduct a war of the holy variety on all of these wretched blasphemers who let the Second Star League collapse. Their words, not mine. thus begins the Blakist era and everybody turning on Comstar. Now, this then gets even more exciting in 3079 with the the breakup of the Free Worlds League, because it's discovered that the leader of the Free Worlds League, Thomas Merrick, is actually a Comstar imposter. They literally swapped him out for a body double just so the word of Blake would have uh, some clause in one of the major powers. In 3080, we have a gentleman by the name of Devlin Stone. We'll get back. So we're going to cover Devlin Stone a little bit today. When we get back to this period in time, Devlin Stone is a bit of a dreamer, but he ends up coming up with some very, very interesting ideas. So you can kind of see a little bit here. These coalition forces. This is this is Devlin Stone. Okay,
Hmm.
Devlin Stone is a slave um, in a Blakist pit. He ends up fighting, or he ends up managing to fight his way to freedom, and then creates the Republic of the Sphere after helping stop the Blakist War. He actually manages to get all of the major powers to band together to crush the Blakists. Because remember, the Blakists were not just here on Terra; they're everywhere. This gray area here, this is just the part of the map that they're able to consolidate the most power in, but they are absolutely everywhere. Now, you can see here, the Free Worlds League has basically broken up because they can't trust their own government anymore. We have this large section here in the middle of the map. This is Devlin Stone's Republic of the Sphere. To Devlin's credit, he was attempting to do something good for once, but ultimately, we don't get to have nice things in Battletech. Something must always come and ruin it. But using the word of Blake protectorate territories as the as his blueprint for his holdings, Devlin Stone and the Republic of the Sphere manage to uh, take quite a bit of territory and are actually very successful for a very long time. The official date is 15 March 3081, where Devlin Stone creates his new government for the Republic of the Sphere and actually almost makes a third Star League. For all intents and purposes, he does actually make a third Star League because he actually does get quite a lot of these factions to kind of sign on, and he does actually get a large scale disarmament and demilitarization to begin happening. And for all intents and purposes, everybody thinks that this is going to be a new era of peace until the beginning of August in 31-32. At that point, everything starts to fall apart because what ends up happening is some mysterious issues begin to appear.
Very
The first
mysterious
one,
issue.
do what?
Very mysterious issues.
Yes. So the word of Blake was not completely annihilated after Devlin Stone managed to make his coalition and crush them. There were still agents everywhere. It took years to fully root out the religious zealots from within Comstar, and ultimately Comstar itself had to be dissolved. Under Devlin Stone's direction, mind you. But the problem was that there was there's several things that happened all at the same time. On the one hand, there was a virus found in multiple HPG systems throughout the ComNet. This took out several of those systems. There was then also this phenomenon that is known as the Clarion Note, that essentially causes an HPG system to do a super HPG burst, which burns the system out, making it dead and useless. At the exact same time, there were several networks that were actively attacked by mysterious forces. So, all of this happening at roughly the same time is highly suspect. Um, but the ultimate fallout of it is not. Um, the HPG network goes down in an event called Gray Monday, wherein the HPG networks begin to fail one after another. Backup systems have to be kicked online. Emergency repairs have to be made, and ultimately, this becomes the death knell of the Republic of the Sphere, because immediately after Gray Monday, everybody jumps on the Republic. Start taking worlds, start trying to punch through to Terra, fighting each other. Just understandably, when you've gone several hundred years with faster than light communication, and you then are suddenly back to sublight speed communications, um, yeah, you're probably going to start jumping on every opportunity, just so that way you have guns, ammunition, and food for you, and screw everybody else. Um, this that basically runs from uh 3032 to 3150. There is this just massive war all through the inner sphere. The Lyrans fighting uh, the Free Worlds League, fighting back against the Lyrans and also attacking the Capellans. The Capellans fighting the Free Worlds League and trying to fight the Davians. The Davians fighting the Draconis Combine and also eating up uh, Republic of the Sphere territories, etc., etc. Turns into a
Also, the
giant
Turians
mess.
are no longer there.
No, they're still
But
there. They're very much diminished. They went from this to this. Now, part of this is the HPG blackout.
mm,
The HPG blackout did an absolute number on everything. Um, we did get in 3145. We do get a brief return of Devlin Stone and things. You can see in 3130 we have this. 3135, the Republic of the Sphere has had to retract itself to what it can most easily defend in what is known as the Fortress Republic. 10 years later in 3145, Devlin Stone does return, and you can see the map has started to be filled back in. But look at where the Lyran Commonwealth is. The Lyran
yeah,
Commonwealth used to be this at one point in time, and in 3145,
the
it's
clans look like they're also marching in and getting heavily invaded by
oh
the
yes,
Emerald Parakeet.
yep. So around this same time, Malvina Hazen has become Khan of the Jade Falcons and has implemented her Mongol doctrine, which essentially is just terror tactics. At the same time that the HPG blackout happens and everybody jumps on everybody else's throats, the clans also jump on everybody's throats and begin their march towards Terra. And ultimately, this gets us to the modern day. In 3151, the Republic of the Sphere is destroyed. Um, Many of the founding clans have actually been completely annihilated. Um, at this point in time, Smoke Jaguar is actually gone. The clan does not exist anymore. There's several clans like that. Clan Novacat at one point prior to this has actually been completely wiped out. They had partially integrated into the Draconis Combine, and the Draconis Combine ended up destroying them. Clan Ghost Bear and the Rossel Hog have formed the Ghost Bear Dominion. So Clan Ghost Bear is still a thing, and the Free Rossel Hog Republic is still a thing, but they're fused, so neither one of them truly exists. Um, but yeah, this is where everything is at, and uh, the clans rush for Terra. Um, and begin the Ill Clan trials, with Clan Wolf ultimately winning under the direction of Alaric Ward, who has now declared himself First Lord of the Star League. Several of these successor states are actually on the verge of collapse, like The Lyran Commonwealth, this is the smallest it's been in a while. The Capellan Confederation has bounced back pretty well, but
The Capellans are the cockroaches that get taken over fully, and yet somehow make it back.
yes,
That's why I like the Capellans. They're everyone's punching bag, but it still comes out swinging still.
yep. So that's where everything that's where everything is sitting currently. That is your crash course on BattleTech, ladies and gentlemen. Um, we will come back next week, and we will actually go into the Mackie itself. Um, we will cover the Mackie, maybe a couple other mechs, but this is the information that you need in order to properly understand um, where we will be starting with the individual units. Uh, Hopefully next week. I'm planning on next week, but we may also finally get back to rewriting the Bayverse. So stay tuned. Um,
Oh boy. Which Bayverse movie is that? Are we doing?
it's the third one, Dark of the Moon.
Oh, the fun one.
Remember?
Well, the one that's I can't remember anything in the first half, but once we get to Chicago, things get interesting.
Yeah, the one with Sentinel Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. That's the one. That's the one we still have to do. So stay tuned for that. Sign up for the Patreon. Uh, follow me on. Follow me here on Twitch. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And follow me on Twitter for announcements and stuff. All right. With that, have a good day, and class dismissed.